Hey everyone, welcome to the Red Room Poetry Fellowship Showcase as part of Poetry Month 2021. My name's Tamara Bennett and it's a privilege to be sharing these poems with you today. I'd firstly like to acknowledge and pay my respects to the Dharawal people, elders, custodians, past, present and future, and also First Nations people listening today who have cared for country and continue to do so for millennia. These works are all possible because of the place we hold here, and so many of the works within the fellowship speak to our deep connection with country. First up, we're going to hear from Red Room Poetry's fellow in 2021, Ellen Van Nieven. Ellen's going to share insights into their practice, their poetics, their fellowship project, and some of the poems that they're creating as part of this process. We're also going to hear from incredible poets, the likes of Sara, Saleh, Tricia Dearborn, Benjamin Dodds, and Elvey, Toby Fitch, Jill Jones, König, Scott Patrick Mitchell, and Brenda Saunders. I want to thank each of these poets for the work that they've crafted throughout the fellowship and under really challenging circumstances that many of us find ourselves in this year. I'd also really like to extend a thanks to the supporters of the fellowship, those generous individuals that make the award possible, as well as Bundanon, who have kindly agreed to postpone Ellen's fellowship into 2022, where we hope that Ellen will be able to join our 2022 fellow and create some works on country together. Thanks so much for listening and being a part of Poetry Month 2021. Let's take a listen to the poems.
My name is Ellen. I'd like to acknowledge that I'm on Yagara and Turrbal Dargan and pay my deep respect to elders both past and present in Yagara and Turrbal Dargan. So I'm going to be answering a few questions about myself and my project. The first question is, who is Ellen Van Nieven? EVN is a socially anxious person that wants to hide but also wants to be found, and loves writing but equally loves supporting the writing of others. I've been writing, I guess, since I was a very young person, and I've also had a huge love for reading that was passed on through my mum. So I feel very privileged to be able to do what I do. I am the Red Room Fellow in 2021, and that's something that I'm really honoured to be. And I've said it previously, but I really want to thank everybody that has made it possible. And I also want to acknowledge the shortlisted poets who have equally amazing projects and poems and trajectories. And I think it's really great that we can celebrate that as well. My fellowship project will extend into 2022 because of COVID. And so particularly the residency, which is a big aspect of the fellowship, unfortunately had to be rescheduled, as I'm sure a lot of us are in that boat with projects being cancelled or rescheduled. So I will be at Bundanon next July in 2022, and that will form a crucial part of the project, because for me it's really valuable to have time that's just dedicated for writing. But it's not to say that I'm not working and thinking about the project now. But I'm working towards that key milestone of next July to hopefully have a big chunk of it completed. I very much work in kind of different chapters, I guess, or different eras. Like my previous book, Throat, came out early 2020, and that was a few years of work. And so after it's done, you want to take a break, not from poetry per se, but a break of being part of such a big project, because when you're working on a big project, it's very consuming, and I felt like I needed some time before projects. But then when I saw the Red Room Fellowship, it made me think about how that I thought I was ready, 12 months after Throat had come out, I started to get a new obsession. I started to be thinking about this new project. So I'll let you know a little bit about it, but also keep in mind that it's really early days for this project, and I see that it being developed in the next 12 months. So it's called Queensland, but it's with a KW, which was really important to me because it's just part of my everyday life. Like, I'm a Malanjali person from the Yugambeh language group. There's 8 clans, family clans within the Yugambeh language group, and land is, like, goes over the border of New South Wales. Like, it's the border ranges, Gold Coast, Scenic Rim, Logan, but yeah, kind of going into that northern New South Wales side. So it's like, the border between Queensland and New South Wales is an arbitrary border, but at the same time, I have a lot of, I guess, what you call Queensland pride. Like, I'm very proud to be a Queenslander, and state of origin, big supporter, love to put on the maroon, love, to kind of talk about how, the Queensland character and how, they breed us, tough up north of the border. But at the same time, Queensland is a totally arbitrary concept. And it's actually, even just saying the word Queensland is really fucking disrespectful to First Nations people, because, Queen's land, Crown's land. And so we're constantly fighting against the whole thing of, like, no, this is Aboriginal land, this is Yugambeh land, this is Yagara, this is Waka Waka, whatever it might be. We are always kind of fighting that colonial placing, and something that's so ingrained in our society, the name of our state. So I just sort of started stylistically changing Queensland with the KW as part of it, also shift in changing the word queer to the KWEER as a part of a way of asserting a non-white, non-colonial identity, gender fluid, outside the colonial project, outside the colonial gender project. And so there's a lot of people that I classify as queens, and they're not Queen Elizabeth, like So I call my friends queens, I call my lovers queens, I call my aunties and my mothers, and anybody I feel that is royalty in a way that they are First Nations and they're connected and um, they have all that beautiful knowledge around them, beautiful. It's not gender specific. Um, it's um, it's relational, and it's also about me learning how to be a good sibling and a good child and a good kind of good friend, and having those relations, and uplifting the work of others. So the project is a very intersectional project that's also combining a lot of my interests, also in mapping, and I think about the work of my Tita Megan Cope and her maps, and just the actual state of Queensland has been modified. Those colonial borders have been modified multiple times, and up until recently they were also modified during the COVID outbreak, and that border has been really policed. So there's historical context, but there's also contemporary context as well. I've already written a few of the poems that will make up the project, and I'm going to read one of them to you later. But I just wanted to answer the question of what is a platform? What value does a platform like Poetry Month have? And I think it's really great, to see all the programming this month. And I'm also involved in Fair Trade, which I'm really excited about, which is pairing up First Nations poets from around the countries, from around international. So one from here, one, somewhere else. So just to be part of that's been really wonderful, that kind of intercontinent kind of dialogue, and just to interrogate solidarity and solidarity as a practice, solidarity as a feeling, solidarity as a movement, and what can solidarity do. And so writing collaboratively with, I don't want to spoil it too much, but working with Laylee has been Laylee Long Soldier has been really fantastic, and also challenging, because that the digital space does really offer its challenges, but it's been a good challenge in a way. So I just wanted to reiterate that it's been really amazing being selected as a fellow, and being able to just know that my project is worth it, that's valuable, that people think it's a good idea, and then being able to be like, right, okay, I'm going to make this happen. I have a lot of energy into wanting to create new work and solve problems, because in a lot of ways I think my poetry making is solving problems as well. It's very intellectual as well as emotional, spiritual. So I'm going to read a poem from the project. The poem itself is called Portrait of a Genderqueer on Fire, and I wrote it I guess with Portrait of a Lady on Fire in mind. I wrote it while on Manjiroba, actually. Um, Manjiroba is like connecting country to us as Yugumba people, Kondamuka. We're connected in many different ways through our salt water. And I was lucky to be there with some local people that I know really well. And I was at this particular point where I was looking out, across the ocean, which is, that body of water is like only a few thousand years old. You know what I mean? Like it would have, it would have been a lot different a few thousand years ago. So our mobs have only been separated for that amount of time, which is not a huge amount of time in non-Western thinking. Anyway, I was looking across the water to Yugumba country, and I was thinking about a particular spot on Yugumba country where you can see right out to the island. So I was just thinking about that gaze as well. So I'll read it out. Portrait of a genderqueer on fire. Addicted to the sunset after burning, I gather with my cousins and lover and Gawanda, swimming close, pushing Jalam against the rocks. My lover is in the high tide of language. She keeps me on my toes. Do all queers feel like sunset is the safest light, the covering of emerging night? Queer with a KW instead of a QU, because fuck the Commonwealth. This sea is a seminal queer text. The way it soaps against the mangroves and my ankles, I'm teaching her to swim. Because I need my kin to be ready for the story of the storm. Smoke particles in the atmosphere make the sky this color. Sometimes our thighs smudge with fire, blood, and earth. Thank you. I hope you all are having a good enough time and really looking forward to connecting more with the beautiful language of poetry. Thank you.
To the people who came before us, who made themselves at home in the tensions of these geographies so we might make our way beyond them. Natalie Diaz. When they say Western Sydney, what they mean is sign this and two forms of ID. God's loosened continents, now we are here, giving disappearance a name we cannot pronounce, we cannot refuse. Here, where visiting hours are short and security guards edit present into permanent intermission, an endless exit and entry, I mean, an administrative tyranny. Every day, a different kind of paperwork. What they mean is leave all your belongings outside. They leave Damascus, leave Baghdad, leave Quetta. Obedience burns our mouths. We have pledged allegiance to a silence only found in English. We enter all disrepair and casket shells. We enter as concerned community, as good-intentioned volunteers. No, I mean as patrons of the panopticon, the violent spectacle. What they mean is biryani and yogurt is not on the list. We bring a box of Ahmed tea, packets of roasted pumpkin seeds. Empire's sunset trespasses the sky, calling us to concrete prayer rug, calling us to reinvent time, I mean to archive, and bless this forehead back in between razor wire, the Australian way of forgetting, I mean the Australian way of living. What they mean is you are not allowed in anymore. Absent them with city paint over it all, flatten them with border and policy, citizen us, call us mistake on the evening news. This syntax corrodes our flesh, this sin against where we discovered a home. I mean, discovered a home, because home is a fable, is a ghost, is a lie. Home is an obscenity we cannot mourn, because home is not a home. I mean, they own us too.
Hi, I'm Benjamin Dodds, and I'm coming to you today from Wongal land. My shortlisted 2021 Red Room Poetry Fellowship project concerned itself with science literacy and science communication, namely through natural history collections in museums. And when I started writing my commissioned poem for Poetry Month, I kind of thought I'd moved on from the topic of my recent collection, Airplane Baby Banana Blanket. That book is a series of poems about a chimpanzee called Lucy. And I embarked on this new project and started writing, but I kept on finding that I was going back to similar themes, similar content. And I ended up writing a poem about that idea in itself, and it's called Purging the Apes. At first it felt forced, how to stow a chimp inside a poem and safely pass through customs. 6 years of pan-troglodytes tearing shit up, screaming from the page, spitting in imagined readers' faces, until nothing seemed finished without their wild name. But they linger still, hang long past publication day, nesting impossibly high in the branches of my brain, blowing loose raspberries down at my failed attempts not to feed them. Hence this exercise in self-exorcism, one last hosing out of the monkey cage. And yes, I know a chimp's not a monkey. Is the umbrage at not finding a stuffed one behind the smudged glass of the museum's primate display theirs or mine? They want a poem for their brother, who drowned in a moat at his Sydney zoo. Their lithe kind sinks like stone, but I won't be worn down by pester power. Nor will I grant their factoid piece on how they and I are closer kin than are Asian and African elephants. That the sickly thing born to Sheba and Jumbolino in Chester the year before my own birth was genetically more monstrous than any human and chimpanzee's hybrid child. Clamour and chant as they will, I won't be writing that. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Tricia Dearborn, and I'm speaking to you today from Gadigal land. My poem's called The Family Line. Busted. Nothing is busted, it is broken. It's not a tit, it's a teat. Don't say snot, it's mucus. Though one of us, possibly me, the eldest, misheard, and we called it mucus. The rules of polite speech, according to my mother, could not account for why I could never look my father in the eye, could not fix what was broken. Sucker. You were 10 the night there was nowhere to stay at the British seaside town, when the whole family slept by the beach in the Saab station wagon. He mocked you, mimicked the sound of the suck, suck, suck. You weaned yourself at 13, ashamed of your need for this infant comfort. It happened just once after that. At 16, after a fight with him, you hurtled into your room in rare tears, fingers in your mouth. The evidence is there, an overbite, the fingers slightly shrunken, angled. Compared to their counterparts, they look like ghosts. Through it all and beyond, you swallowed the family line that the fault was yours. Sunday lunch. Entering her parents' house is like landing on a foreign planet in original Trek. No lizard-headed alien will spring from behind a rock, but the atmosphere is hostile to reality. She can't bring her whole self here. It would be like bringing a baby into a beer hall, all need and feeling, in a place where need and feeling are distractions from the good time to be had, impediments to the easy flow of jokes and facts and comedy quotes and relentlessly animated conversation. By Tuesday, she's binging and purging again, crying into her coffee, telling her friend she doesn't know what's wrong. Her friend says, "Have you seen your mother lately?" As her wife will say in years to come, noting her fixed, argumentative stance, "Hun, did you talk to your family?" Rupture. In the house where everything is fine, if you are not fine, if you cannot pretend to be fine, if you do not agree that everything is fine, if you do not think that a house where everyone must be fine all the time is fine, you can leave that house or leave yourself. Choose your rupture.
Hello, my name is Scott Patrick Mitchell, and I am a guest on the land of the Whadjuk Noongar Nation. I would like to acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded and that this is, was, and always will be Aboriginal land. For my 2021 Red Room Poetry Fellowship, I want to explore a West Australian government policy of bushland forever, and how protest has played a really big part in making sure that certain urban reserves have lasted forever. A huge swath of information has become available through my research, and I'm really grateful for this opportunity. So thank you, Red Room, for making this happen. Here is a short taster of what I've written, and I hope you enjoy. Thank you. Earlier, full moon morning, white orb weaver spun glow into view. Here at Star Swamp, a chill as still stands beside you. Arms raised, a dancer heralds day. Black root, a memory of snake. On track's edge, crystal rock fungi eroded, sporeless, lichen landscape tableau grows, world in miniature. Fairy wren puts on blue breeding coat. Butcherbird hangs each note on a hook inside your ear. What is a bloom if not a calendar calling season to move? What is rain if not a prelude to fire? Yellow candle Banksia will give way to firewood Banksia, flower the intensity of a flame. Insulation against grubs as fronds volcano skyward. They say a bushland forever, as if this is new. growth, but the Jarrah knows better. Up above, black cockatoo squalls, warns extinction is forever.
Woomera Part 2. Just like children, I was casting spells in ancient caves. We hid used panty liners between two cracks in black volcanic stepping stones. For fun, we carried on 44 gallons to tops of steep gorges, pushed down, watched them bounce, then again and again, they're still there, in rusted donga pipelines, years apart, she and I fagging high up over saltbush, breathing her in through stages. We kissed beside the boulders. On top, sat basking in a blister, outback sun making red faces while we crushed. Roo skulls still tacky, swollen, moist with sweat, fur blood, paw prints in mud, coiled, spinal arch, neck twist, splintered vertebrae. This crust is a pain to remember.
Bora Bora. Dig your hand in deep, touch hardened clay. Feel the spread of stamped ground, firm and flat. Trace the circles we now call Bora. Feel the guiding stones lining a pathway for young men on the way to initiation. Hear the clamouring voices underground, the thud of footsteps around the clearing. Our rings remain in the most unlikely places. Look on the edge of any town for two arenas left unattended, overgrown as if discarded. Discovered by settlers, farmers taking the land. Reused as showgrounds, racetracks, sale yards. Scratch below any suburban cricket pitch. Ask who levelled the hill, rounded the boundary fence. Trams once looped the Great Bora at Coogee. Now crowds come to picnic on the same scabby lawn. Each summer, sunbakers overflow from the beach, complain, find the land too hard, too flat, unaware of the years of stamping, dancing under their feet, of bigical corroborees, feasting with the Gadigal, sharing the whale stranded in the bay. No council signs to warm newcomers, no stone to claim the small ring close to the shore, for secret initiation rites, screened from the clans. Ritual ochres scattered by wind and time. Lines of white clay now mark a different space. The perfect circle squared off to shape a football field for young men to measure their skill and pride. Sift the sand at Maroubra. Sticky tar, concrete slabs will rise, left over from the old speedway ring. Built for night crowds with a craze for speed. Cars, motorbikes, challenging death at every turn. Scratch deeper like memories, our stories will surface. Tales of Eora people living in time with nature. Laws, ancient wisdom holding their world in place. The Maroubra flattened dunes built mounds, a giant bowl well back from the beach, to shape the rim, mirror the sky bore in space. Each year they lit fires to welcome the Darawal, waited for the right time to catch the creator spirit. The rainbow serpent spinning dust, an orbit of stars lighting celestial patterns in the winter darkness.
Hello, thanks to Red Room for the nomination in the Red Room Fellowship this year. I'd like to acknowledge the Gadigal people on whose land I wrote this poem called Entanglement, which is based on real life events, and it goes like this. I am watching myself untangle my earphones, my body's walk paused, standing on the corner of Bedford and Probert, beneath mini grotesques on the roof of a white and grey self-renovated house, its ghost gum swaying in the wind as 3 trains careen by from different origins, interlocking like snaking blocks of Tetris. The passengers on board watching my body, standing there on the corner of Probert, its fingers untangling earphones, its eyes fixed on a missing parrot poster taped to a telegraph pole, mind fixating on whether the silk shirt they're wearing, white feathers on black, expresses their gender today. Standing on the corner of Probert, sun splitting the clouds as a gap opens up between trains, permitting past and future to collide. I am watching myself untangle my earphones from the roof with the mini grotesques I crouch beside, ghost gum convulsing in the wind, silver leaves within reach, but obscuring the vermilion and forest green parrot whose clipped wings have carried it from Lilyfield to Newtown, one dry urban tree to the next, and into my garden, from which I've climbed to the rooftops in pursuit of the missing bird, whose family has arrived to shout advice from the street, along with 2 firemen, some neighbours and passers-by, as 3 trains speed to separate destinations, interlocking like snaking blocks of Tetris, my body spaced out across lightweight tin roof, mind fixating on whether I'm capable of holding this creature who doesn't want to be held, sweat dripping all the way to the sidewalk, sun splitting the clouds as a gap opens up between trains, synapses tethered to the silver leaves, the wild expectations of the street, the vermilion and green blur as the parrot slips my grasp, glides out across Bedford, just clearing the fence to the train tracks, clipped wings flapping but not rising, the thud of its body audible over the screech of metal on metal, the bright bird feathered on the dark rocks of the tracks, face up to the sky. For days to come, I am watching myself untangle.
Hello, my name is Elvey and I'm making this recording on Boonwurrung country in Bayside, Melbourne, Naarm. And I want to pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, their poets and storytellers and songwriters, recognising their ongoing care for country and their sovereignty in this place, and particularly during NAIDOC week, honouring the memories held and carried of resistance and connection over many, many years from time immemorial. My poem is called Luring Water and it relates to local trees, Coast Banksia, and to the Red Room theme last year of writing water. And I thank you for the opportunity to write this poem and make this video. Thank you. Luring Water with Coast Banksia, Banksia integrifolia. With filaments thread by threaded hand, they delve into the mineral grains and standing lure water from the sand. Spreading roots in coastal land, they follow a want through porous veins, with filaments thread by threaded hand. Ancient seas in memory stand, where cone and bristle catch the rains. Jagged, they lure water from the sand. Companion acids they have planned to gather up moisture like a skein of filaments thread by threaded hand. They honey sweetness on a land older than their botanical names, and standing lure water from the sand. With gnarl and twist they answer the land, testing the wind from bareness gained through filaments thread by threaded hand. By habit they lure water from the sand.
Hi, my name is Jill Jones, and I'm reading this poem on Kaurna land. Sovereignty was never ceded. I want to thank the Red Room for this commission that began me thinking about objects. However, I didn't want to write another This is a Poem about a chair, but to write about objects in everyday systems, a parade of things. In other words, how things pass from and between other things, and the emotions that carry them through ordinary days, about the intensities of things in spaces. I also found some of my writing drifting into the uncanny and the secret life of things. I wrote a number of poems, but the one I'll read now mixes the uncanny, the ordinary, among things and feelings. I've called it an address to the shadow that follows me. I'm still your goddess of crumbs and scraps, chewing on suburban air. Let me tell you, it takes some guts to do that amongst these poke-faced love shacks and villa clones. I scour the darkness like a cute machine. Tell me, am I stubbornly retro and trashy in my dreams, or just curled up with portents and movie themes? I'm not convinced by bargain bins, HTML, pantyhose, nature strips, auto-tune, or the next kitsch theory. I am not a theory. I am where I lay my dead. Should I wander elsewhere? A country called Fredonia, the lower east side of Middle Earth, the northern suburbs of circumstance, amongst the daffodils. Should I rise and become strange blue milk at dawn, or simple and rhythmic as a train to the city? Morning drapes on the fence as I stand in the doorways never. Remember when we used to do things? Time was a spider web, a new leaf, clitoral shadow. Now hours are suspended in my giddy rooms. The light sings in the ceiling. Why do all these rooms change places? I'm clutching cords, folds and batteries as a way to steady things. In the end, I meet a minor character in a sci-fi novel. Should I go make some history, like a snake, the Red Sea, Sputnik, or Trelawney scrabbling in hot sand for Shelley's unburnt heart? Even while I photocopy the past, my ears hum like stars. Let me tell you, there are places where even you cannot follow me, where I can no longer go. As I walk into the sun, where are you back there with all the shadow friends, my shadow friend? Thanks for listening to me.